Hey there, planners. I recently did a video where I walked through my OneNote setup for work, and you guys loved it. And so many of you asked me if I could sell a template for that OneNote setup, and that's just not something I do. However, what I love to do is tutorials for how you can DIY your own planning solutions. So I'm going to do a few steps in a OneNote build today and walk through step by step how I set up my OneNote for work. This will likely be a couple different videos, so I will definitely have any future videos in this series linked down in the description box below as they are ready to share. So go grab your planners and let's get planning. All right, so here is the OneNote dashboard for the notebook that I shared in the previous video, and I'll have that video listed down below. I want to just kind of step through how I set this up and hopefully give you some ideas for how you can set up a very similar OneNote notebook that will work best for you. So let's start by creating a new notebook. I'm going to go over here to add a new notebook, and I am going to enter the notebook name. We'll just call this Work Notebook 2. And then I hit Create Notebook. So now I've got this really great blank notebook and I can start building. The first page that I built is a dashboard page. And I'm calling this tab section Inbox because this is really where I want to kind of go first. This is the first place I go in the day. If you're not familiar with OneNote, there are probably some really great resources to give you just a very baseline overview and understanding of OneNote. I'm not going to go into that detail today. I'm going to assume that you've used OneNote and you're familiar with it. So you're familiar with the tab structure and then the pages within the tabs and kind of how OneNote is set up. So we're going to start there. I've got my inbox now. I don't love this color, so I'm going to change this color to, I'm feeling purple today. I'm feeling purple, so I'm going to go with purple, and I am going to call this very first page my dashboard. Now, one thing that you guys asked over and over about, I use a lot of icons in my OneNote, and that's to help me find things. And I'll talk about kind of the ways that helps me as I build this out. But I am using a Windows computer, and the way that you do this on a Windows computer is I'm going to hold down the Windows key and I'm going to press the period, and that brings up a menu of icons. And I can actually click through and find, you know, all the icons that I want. I'm going to actually search for control because I'm thinking about like a control panel, and I've got a couple of different options here. These are control knobs, which I think are really cool. So I'm going to use those, and you'll see that it shows up as a colorful icon over here. But then on the actual page index, it's showing up as a little black and white icon. I could also try the game controller, which I think is pretty cool. I think that's kind of neat too. Another great one is like a spyglass. So play around, find the one you want. You can search through all the different, all the different emojis and sort of icons and sort of find what works best for you. So I won't spend a lot of time on that, but that is how you do it. Now, if you're using a Mac computer, there's probably a different way. And I don't know what that is because I don't have a Mac computer, but you can certainly research that and find it. All right, so we've got our first page. This page is home base. It's where I come to, I put all of the sort of most important information for me. The first thing I like to have here is an inbox. So this is a place for me just to drop items in as they come to me. Now I'm going to play around a little bit with the font and make this, a font that makes sense for me, change the color. All of that stuff you can do for yourself. Since I'm going with purple, I'm going to do that. There's lots of different things you can do here. All right, so now I have my inbox. I am going to create a bulleted list of items to indicate that this is, this is where I need to drop things in, and I'll go ahead and put an example here. So let's say call, I'm going to change this font back to black. Call James about the thing. Okay? And so I just go ahead and give myself a list here, and it's ready to go. There's my inbox. So think of this very similar to what you would use an inbox for in your paper planner. You're in a meeting, something comes up, you don't have time to figure out where it goes, you drop it right in this inbox. All right, the next thing I had on my dashboard, which you guys were asking about, is I actually had a little quote and image. So the way I did that is I came into the Insert tab and I used screen clipping. So, all right, so I'm gonna come over here, I'm gonna hit screen clipping, and I'm going to actually clip this quote from Stephen Covey. I like it because it's purple. All right, so now I've got this great little picture, and I can, I can resize it, I can move it around, I can put it anywhere I want to. Let's say I want to put it right over here beside my inbox. So now I've got this great quote and picture, and you can, you can do it with anything. You can also just insert a photo if you want to from your computer. I like to do the screen clipping because I can grab, I can grab whatever I want to. Okay, so there's my decoration. I'm gonna keep decoration pretty simple because I am trying to make this about work and productivity. All right, the next thing, I'm gonna click down here and I'm going to add what I had on my dashboard is my weekly reset routine. And I use tables, and a lot of you had some questions about how I put tables in. So again, in the Insert tab, I come over here and I just want a single column table. You can certainly add more columns, but I'm going to have a single column table. I'm going to spread this out to how thick I think I want this to be. And then I'm going to go over here to the table tab where I actually have some options for adding rows, deleting rows, alignment, and shading, which is something that I use. So because I'm going with purple on here, I'm going to shade this a purple color. And if you don't like any of these colors, you can always go to more colors. You've got lots of options here. So I'm going to go with a dark purple for this one. And then I'm going to make the writing, I'm going to center the writing. I'm going to make it a little bigger. And I'm going to make it white and bold, and I'm going to say weekly review process. So now I've got my weekly review process ready to go. The first step in my weekly review process is to clean up. Now, you may have a completely different weekly review process, but I'm just going to go with mine. So I'm going to go back to the more colors again, and I'm going to pick another purple, but I'm going to make it just a little bit lighter. And I'm going to have this be step 1, clean up. And now what I'm going to do is actually just create a checklist in this box. So the way I create a checklist is you have a whole section of tags here on your home tab. You can do a lot with customizing these tags. So let me just hop into here and show you what that looks like. Let's say I want to create a new tag, and I'm going to call this XYZ meeting, because I need a tag that shows me specifically XYZ meeting. I can pick a very specific symbol. Now, you are limited to the symbols that are here, but there's some good symbols here. So I'm gonna, let's say I really don't like this meeting, so I'm gonna give it a frowny face. And I'm also gonna assign it with a hot pink color. Or maybe I don't want a hot pink color, but I wanna highlight it hot pink so that I can see this, okay? I can also, one of the things I really like to do when I want things to stand out is I'll highlight it in a dark color and give it like a light pink font. That really makes it stand out. So, okay, that's my new tag, XYZ meeting. I'm gonna move this down a little bit because I don't want it to be the top one, but you can also see a keyboard shortcut here, Control-3. So let's say, let me come over here and say I'm getting ready to write something about this. I can hit Control-3, and now I know I need to send the agenda, and that tells me it's for that XYZ meeting. I've got the, you know, frowny face and the highlighting and the color coding. So anyway, those are the tags. You've already got some tags that come default set up, but feel free to play around with those. One of the ones that I use a lot is to do, now I did get some questions, there's some ways to create reports and roll-ups with tags. I have not found that to be a very useful feature in Outlook, so, I mean, in OneNote, so I'm not going to go into that, but definitely research that if that's something that you're interested in. All right, so I'm going to use the to-do. And the first thing I do is I clear the clutter around my desk. And then let's say that means my inbox and my email. Now, I don't like how tight these things are, you know, how close these things are. I want a little bit more spacing. So I can actually highlight this row and come up here to the paragraph options and paragraph spacing. And I can say after a line, I want there to be a 6-point separation. I just like the way that looks a lot better, okay? And so I can keep going with my list. My next item would be get to inbox 0. So I put that in here. And so on and so forth. And then when I get to step 2, I can come back to my table, do another shading, make sure my font is white, and say need to make it bold. Also, say step 2. In my process is capture, and so on. So this is how you make a table and use checkboxes. Now, also, the other thing about using the checkboxes, I can actually check when things are done, which is super handy if you're coming back to this list over and over again. And then, you know, next week, I just uncheck all the boxes and I'm ready to go. Other things that I had on my dashboard, I also had a table over here of reoccurring tasks in a very similar fashion to this one. I would set it up exactly the same. So that's the other thing I had on my dashboard. I also had some brain dump triggers. You can put that here. What I would recommend is you put on your dashboard the things that you're going to repeatedly come back to and sort of reference items for the week, things that you need to come to regularly every day. All right, the next thing I want to show you is how to make a template for a page that you're going to use over and over again. So I'm going to add a page, and this is a new blank page. One of the pages I use over and over again is my weekly plan. So the first thing I'm going to do is give this page a title. And I'm going to start with an icon. I like to use my little pin because it's my weekly plan, so I like to keep it pinned to the top. This is something I spend a lot of time on, so I'm going to call this weekly plan. All right, and what I'm doing is I'm actually setting up this page, but I'm going to turn it into a template that I'm going to use over and over again every week, because I pretty much, just like your planner page, you know, think about a physical planner. If you have a weekly planner, your weekly pages look exactly the same for every week. That's what I'm creating, that template that I'm going to use. All right, the way I like to set my weekly plan up is first I want to have the days of the week. So I'm going to go over here to insert, and I'm going to create a table that's one column that has 10 blocks. Now, this is for work for me, so I'm not really concerned about the weekend days. I'm concerned about the weekdays. So I'm only going to have the Monday through Friday view. So I want 10 blocks, and I'm going to make this like this. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Add 2 more, 9, 10. Okay. So let me zoom in just a little bit. And by the way, you can zoom in a couple of ways. You can go up to view and you can zoom that way, or you can hold the control key and use your mouse to scroll up, and it actually zooms in for you that way as well. So zoomed in a little bit. All right, so I'm going to make headings and then spaces for the days. So I'm going to use purple. I'm into purple right now. So I'm going to let's use a little bit more bright, like pinky purple. This one's called lavender. Yeah, let's use lavender. And I'm going to shade every other box lavender, because that's going to be my headers. And so I'm going to put this in the center. I'm going to make the font just a little bigger. I'm going to make the font white and bold, and I'm going to call this Monday. And then I'm going to create just a template for the numbers, okay? And I'm going to do the same thing here. And actually, to make this easier, I'm going to copy Monday, paste, 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 and then move this to the center and change this to Tuesday. And, you know, please don't feel like you have to set it up exactly like mine is. You know, if you don't want crazy colors, or, you know, you think this font is too big, this is totally up to you. I just want to be able to share with you the concepts of how I set this up so that you can then create, you know, what is going to work best for you. All right, and Friday. Now I'm leaving these numbers just as template, and I'll show you why, because right now I don't need the numbers in there. Those are going to change every week. I just want my page to populate like this for me to fill in. All right, now what goes under here? These items under these headings are going to be day-specific items that happen on a certain day that I need to be aware of, okay? So I'm just making sure the font is black for each one of these. And then I'm also going to highlight the whole table, and I can do that just by highlighting this whole box. And I'm gonna go ahead and create that spacing again. I like to have a little bit of spacing so that things look good. I can read them. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and ready it for the way I want it to populate every week, which means I have reoccurring tasks that occur every Monday, every Tuesday, every Wednesday. I have certain things that I need to do. So I want to have my weekly plan pre-populate that way. All right. So let me go ahead and put those in. I'm going to make a box here, and I'm going to say every Monday, let's say I have to approve timesheets. All right. And let's say another thing I have to do every Monday is I have to submit expenses. All right. And then I will just create a couple more boxes that I can populate as I need to. All right. And then I'm going to do the same thing on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday. I'm going to take my reoccurring tasks that I know I have to do every week, and I'm going to populate those. So let me get this all populated and set up and ready to go, and I'll show you what it looks like. You populate your own reoccurring task as well. All right, so I've got my weekly calendar populated. You may have a lot more tasks there. I just popped in a few. I've also left myself some space to already get started because I know I'm going to have other items. Now, the other thing I want every week on my weekly plan is I want a space to populate my projects and my areas of responsibility and anything else. So I'm going to go ahead and add in those tables. So I'm going to insert another table, and I'll have one for projects and one for areas of responsibility. Now I can actually list out specific projects. So let's say I have two projects, Project Alpha and Project Bravo. Let's just call them that. I'm going to, let me pick a different color, purple. Here we go. All right, and I'm going to call this project. And these are for tasks that don't necessarily have to be done on a specific day, but I do need to do them this week. So I'm going to make this first section for, go back to my table, and I'm going to give it a little bit lighter color. I want to go like a really light color, purple. Let's come in here, and I'm going to say this is Project Alpha. Okay, and then I want to create another space for, turn this, and I'm going to take this, copy it, paste it right here, and I'm going to change this to Project Bravo. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and give myself a couple of beginning to-dos, and again, I want to fix that spacing. This is just purely personal preference here. If that spacing doesn't bother you, don't worry about it. It bothers me though. So I'm going to go ahead, give myself a couple of extra. Now you see I ended up with 2 rows I don't want. I'll show you how to get rid of those. You've got under your table section, you've got delete rows there. So there's my projects all ready to go. And now I also want to have the same thing for areas of responsibility. And if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about there, so I just copied that table and created it again, and I'm going to change what it says. So I'll put areas of responsibility. All right, and I'm going to change the color. Now, where I'm getting this set up from is from Building a Second Brain. Building a Second Brain is a, Tiago Forte is the author of the book, Building a Second Brain, and it is a methodology for organizing, you know, sort of creating an organization system that you can use in your life to sort through information as it comes in. And I will not go into a lot of detail here because I have a whole video on this, and I'll have that link down below. But areas of responsibility are different from projects because they don't have beginning and end dates. They're just things you always have to do. So I think of this like maybe I am working on a meeting that I have every week. So let's say there's a meeting that I facilitate. It's my meeting. I have it every single week. And there is no end date. It's a communication meeting and we always have it, right? So that would be an area of responsibility because I have to pull the agenda together, make sure the attendees are aware of any pre-work they need to do, take the action items out of that meeting, you know, all of those things. So that's an area of responsibility. Another example would be, you know, for direct reports, their development, right? So goal setting and development for my team. That's an area of responsibility. It doesn't have a beginning and ending date. It's something that I'm always responsible for. So that's a quick definition of the difference between those two. So I want to have space every week to populate those items. And then the last thing I want to include here is just everything else, because there could be, you know, who knows what else might come up. So I'm going to create another box and give it a different color purple. I'm using up all the colors of purple that are available. And I'm going to call this just everything else. You can call it whatever you want, but this would be all the other to-dos that come up during the day or during the week that you just need to take care of. All right, so, and I need to fix the pesky spacing again here. And, you know, here's what I'll say as I'm doing this. Do not try to tackle all of this at once. I spent months and months setting this up, my work OneNote up. What I would say is start with the very minimum stuff you need, and then allow your planning system to build itself and make tweaks. So here I have set up a very simply weekly plan template. Now I may find that, you know, in 3 weeks I get a new project, Project Charlie, and I need to update this template in order to make it useful for me, right? So you can also, maybe I want to have each project has its own color coding because those are the colors of tabs I have, right? So you will constantly be updating your system, which I think is important anyway. Don't fall into the trap of planner piece that you're going to find some system that's going to stay static and work forever for you. It's not. That's not reflective of our lives. So start with the minimum that you need. Okay, now I have this page set up. This is how I want it to, you know, this is how I want my blank week to start every week. Now what I can do is I can make this a little longer. I can turn this into a template. And the way I do that is I go over to Insert, and there's an option here that says Page Templates. If I bring that down, I want to click on Page Templates and have the full menu pop out over here, right? I want to save this current page as a template. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to give it, this is where my icons come in handy. I'm going to give it that icon because that makes it very simple to see. And I'm going to call this My Weekly Plan. And you also have the option to every page that you create would be populated with this template. I don't want that in this section, but if you have a section where, let's say in your project section, you want every single page to be populated with that basic project plan template, you could do that. I don't want that in this case, so I'm going to save that. And now I have this all ready to go. So I'm going to delete this. And now I'm going to come over to Insert. Let's say it's the end of the week. I'm ready to start planning for next week. I come over to my page templates. I go to my page templates under the menu of my templates. There's my weekly plan, and I can quickly see it because I've got my icon there ready to go. Now there's my week, and I can start populating. So this week I've got to submit the ding dong dang report, right? And I can start populating it for the week. So that's how you create a template for the weekly plan. And this is really the heart of the system that I set up. I think this is a really good stopping point. We've got the dashboard set up with our key information, and we've got the weekly plan. This is a great place to start and then begin to see what else you need, like adding a new tab for projects. That would be the next step, right? And so then we would start to add all the different projects that we have going on with pages and subpages and all of that. So I will cover the projects and the different tabs that I use in a separate video, but hopefully this gives you some good information to get started with. Keep asking your questions. You guys have asked so many questions. I'm sorry that I'm not able to offer this template for sale. It's just not something I can do right now, but hopefully, you know, kind of encouraging you to DIY and showing you how I set some things up. Hopefully that gets you going. Please keep your comments and questions coming in. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to Planning Annie for more content like this, and as always, thanks for planning with me.